My name is Dr. Betsy Mansfield. I am a second-year postdoc at the FSU Coastal and Marine Lab located down in St. Teresa. And I'm also the Vice President of the Postdoctoral Association here at FSU. I have the distinct honor of opening the show today with a few thank yous and a few announcements. So first, we'd like to welcome all of you to this event and thank you for joining us in celebrating National Postdoc Appreciation Week. This week, which was created in 2009 and recognized by the House of Representatives of the US government in 2010, is a week that's celebrated throughout the nation by higher education institutions to recognize the significant contributions and success of postdoctoral scholars. There are several additional events throughout the week that I just want to highlight and encourage postdocs and their supervisors to attend. So tomorrow from 9 to noon, there will be coffee and pastries available for postdocs and their supervisors on the 3rd floor rooftop terrace of the King Life Sciences building. That's right across from the Spirit Way garage, so if you have parking, you can park there and head on in. And then on Saturday, starting at 3 p.m., the PDA will be hosting a picnic and social event at Myers Park. We really encourage folks to bring food to share and outdoor games. Partners and families are more than welcome. They are encouraged to come. We would love to socialize with you and your families. We'll be there until sunset, and if you have any questions about the event or where to park and things like that, please come see me after the event. I'm happy to provide more details. And then finally, there are a number of people that we need to thank today for supporting us, postdocs in a myriad of different ways. We'd like to recognize all of the judges who volunteered their time to provide our competitors feedback, so thank you so much for being with us here today. Next, we would like to thank President McCullough for supplying funding for this event, along with the reception afterwards during the awards ceremony this evening. We really appreciate the investment and the time that has gone into this, and I really encourage everyone to stick around for some great food and socializing and celebrating afterwards. Additionally, we would like to thank the Office of Research, including Vice President Patterson, for providing funding for the intramural scholarships for the 3-part grant writing workshop that's held each year to provide training to our postdocs for successful grant writing and submission. And finally, we would like to thank Provost Clark and Vice President Kistner for the support they provide through the Provost Postdoctoral Fellowship Program. That was a lot of P's all in a row. This program provides competitive development for diverse scholars and has successfully enhanced the pipeline for individuals underrepresented in academia who would like to become professors. So we are very thankful for that funding and fellowship opportunity for folks. And again, I'd like to thank you all for your participation in this event and your support of postdocs university-wide. I'd now like to introduce Provost Clark to say a few words.
Thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. Excellent. I'm happy to be here during National Postdoc Appreciation Week to express my appreciation for our postdoc scholars. And President McCullough had a sudden conflict today, so he asked me to also pass along his excitement about what's happening here. Postdocs, as we all know, are crucial to the success of every major research university. And we're so glad that you chose to continue your training at Florida State University. You're a vital part of the research mission at FSU. Postdoc scholars bring new energy and technologies to our research mission. Your dedication, passion, and tireless efforts have enriched our academic community as you advance your skills and refine your knowledge in your disciplines. You have so many roles and parts to play in the institution. You're mentors to both our undergraduate and graduate students, and your presence in our labs and research groups provide them with essential scholarship and training and serve as an important bridge to the faculty. I understand and appreciate your enthusiasm for discovery and the many hours of exploration you devoted to your training. This is an important time in shaping your career as you work toward becoming an independent investigator in a specialized field, whether that field's in academia, industry, or the federal government. At Florida State University, more than 60% of our postdocs accept permanent positions in one of these three areas, with upwards of 33% achieving tenure-track positions in academia, which, by the way, is well above the national average of, anybody know what the national average of postdocs achieving tenure-track positions in academia? Yeah, you didn't think I was going to ask you a question, huh? 33% from FSU, the national average is 7%. So, I think that's significant. This tremendous success is something to celebrate. I'd like to thank Deborah Fadul for her guidance in the Office of Postdoctoral Affairs, as well as the Postdoctoral Association for supporting our postdocs and offering valuable professional development activities. And in a couple of the meetings I've had with Debbie and officers from the Postdoc Association, I can tell you they are fierce advocates for you all. The 5-minute research competition is one of these activities. The ability to communicate complex ideas concisely and creatively is a critical skill for any researcher. This competition challenges our postdocs to condense years of rigorous study into an elevator pitch that will capture the attention of a future employer, investor, or collaborator. I understand that 67% of our postdocs scholars are international. So we all know it cannot be easy to participate in an oral competition in a second language. So special kudos to you all who are doing that. I'd like to congratulate the 10 finalists and wish them luck in the competition today. Your work inspires us, and your discoveries will shape the future. I'd also like to thank the judges from Florida State and the City of Tallahassee for devoting your time and expertise to this event. And to all our postdoctoral scholars, thank you for your unwavering commitment to research excellence. Your contributions are deeply valued, and we are proud to call you part of the FSU family. I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Thanks for having me today.
All right, it's a great day for a celebration. This is going to be really creative, it's going to be fun, and I'm glad that you guys could all join us. So I'd like to have a shout out to our judges. So judges, can you please stand, and let's thank all our judges. Community from all kinds of fields, because you're going to hear talks from all kinds of fields. I also want to thank our team members at the Graduate School in the Office of Postdoctoral Affairs. So you guys wave, you're all over the place. We unfortunately lost our event planner like a couple weeks before school started, so we've been watching catering videos and doing all kinds of things behind the scenes. So I appreciate the kind of scatter we had with the non-alphabetized name badges coming in here this morning. All right, if you want a career in event planning, please see Dean Riley, because we're hiring. All right, so you heard from Betsy about other events this week, so now we're on to our main event, which is the 5-minute research. I want to thank the GeoSet Studios for documenting and providing our speakers with professional footage. And remember, there's just one rule, speaker, there's one rule. Don't go over 5 minutes, okay? And so Daniel is going to be right here. He's going to have a tablet. When you're at 30 seconds, he's going to go like this. So even if you have to stop mid-word, you want to stay eligible, right? All right. So be alert, audience. You already got one question from the provost, and you didn't step on that very fast because these guys are going to ask you some questions. So be on top of that. And then at the end, you have to remember who you saw because they've all done preliminary rounds and they are really tight in the wonderfulness of their presentations. And so you're going to have to remember because at the end, you get to vote. Okay? All right. So relaxed speakers, you guys are already winners. So just have fun with this, okay? Okay, our first speaker is Saeed Shalom Alaviani, and he comes to us from the Center of Advanced Power Systems, CAPS, and the MAG Lab, and he is going to be presenting on medical microrobots to treat cancer.
According to American Cancer Society, cancer is the second most cause of death after heart disease in the United States. Just in 2022, more than 1.9 million new cases were diagnosed, and more than 600,000 deaths for cancer were reported. It is 1,670 deaths a day. This is just quantity impact of cancer on our life. When we lose one of our family member or close friend because of cancer, it has untreatable impact on our life and emotion. That's why cancer treatment is very important, not only in the United States, but also around the globe. Fortunately, microrobots offer new opportunities to treat cancer. What is microrobot? A very small robot in the size of less than 1 millimeter, built to do a specific task. Why microrobots? Because they are non-invasive surgeons and they have access to the areas that are not accessible to human surgeons. On top figure, you can see one microrobot loaded by a drug to attack a cancer cell. But cancer is not only one cell, it's millions of cells. That's why one microrobot cannot treat cancer. And we need many microrobots, or called the swarm of microrobots. My research is magnetic control of a swarm of microrobots in a living organism for cancer treatments. On the top figure, you can see the area of my research. And why magnetic field? For two reasons. Remote wireless operation, and the second one is harmlessness to the human body. So, what have been done on magnetic microrobots? Do you know that heat can kill cancer cells? Magnetic microrobots can generate heat when activated by alternating magnetic field, and if the temperature is between 42 to 46 degrees Celsius or 108 to 115 Fahrenheit, they can kill cancer cells. This kind of cancer treatment is known as magnetic hyperthermia. And fortunately, it has been successfully done on mice. What about human body? Fortunately, there have been successful clinical trials for glioblastoma and prostate cancer. The glioblastoma is located in the brain, and prostate is located in the lower abdomen of the male body. But everything is not fine. The tumors of glioblastoma and prostate are localized and accessible to inject many microrobots. But every tumors are not localized and accessible to inject microrobots. That's why there are roadblocks for cancer treatment by using magnetic microrobots. So the first roadblock is effectively targeting microrobots to the tumors which are deep inside the human body or inaccessible tumors. Fortunately for this roadblock, there has been a successful method on mice, but not yet on human body. The second roadblock is low accumulation of microrobots for such tumors. Unfortunately, there is no method for both mice and human body. That's why these two roadblocks impose challenges for human blood vessels for a swarm of microrobot. The first one is path following, or following a desired path, and the second one is resilient control, or control under difficult situation. And why blood vessels? Blood vessels are non-Newtonian fluids. It means its thickness increases and decreases. To visualize the challenge, assume you are swimming in a river whose speed increases and decreases, and the thickness of the water increases and decreases. Then how you swim in a desired path from one place of the river to the other part is a challenging problem that I'm gonna address. Thank you for your attention.
Our next speaker is Pratik Bandha, and he comes to us from the Chemical and Biochemical Engineering program, and he will speak today on wireless control of cells for cloning and applied science complications.
So good afternoon all. So how many of you know the image here? Can you tell me what kind of a sheep is this? Yes. So this is a very famous sheep called Dolly, which was born, or let's say cloned in Scotland way back in 1996. Later on, after 1996 to 2003, Dolly was found in a museum in Scotland. Unfortunately, as you can see, it passed away due to certain cloning inefficiencies. Till date, researchers are trying to find out the cause for its death. So there are a number of reasons. The first reason is there are certain cloning procedures which might have some inefficiencies. That's why researchers thought that, hey, maybe this is why there is Dolly died due to some anomalies. But till date, it is not sure why Dolly the sheep died. So I'm just going to go over some of the methods of cloning here. It's very simple. I'm just giving an example of a stormtrooper. On the left side, you can see donor stormtrooper, I can call, through which researchers will extract the DNA, and later on the extracted DNA will be injected into the recipient cell. Now this recipient cell can be from recipient trooper. So as soon as they inject the DNA into the recipient cell, we are basically reprogramming the cell. So as soon as we reprogram the cell, we do it multiple times in multiple different cells, and then there will be an embryo which will be cultured from multiple cell lines. And later on, this embryo will be inserted into a surrogate mother, so that finally we will get a cloned recipient trooper. Now, play the video. So this video is showing a typical method of manipulation of the cell and extract the DNA. The color what you're seeing there at the center is a DNA, let's say chromosomes. So researchers are using kind of a pipette, like a bevel pipette, to poke through the cell, so which may cause some damage to the cells. So this is the process where we believe that okay, if we are damaging the cell, it may result into inefficiency during cloning processes, and that's why maybe Dolly the sheep might have died. That's one of the reasons. So for that purpose, we wanted to have a system where I can wirelessly control the cell without manually operating it. So there are a couple of reasons why we need wireless control over the cells. The major reason is that if I can somehow find a way to wirelessly control the cell, I'm not going to damage the cell. So for that purpose, I created this biochip, which is roughly the size of a quarter coin. In that, I inserted a cell, and then I could apply electromagnetic fields to rotate the single cell in two-dimensional spaces or orient the cell. So by doing so, I'm avoiding any kind of manual contact or orientation of the cells. So, by doing this, we can only also precisely control the cell orientation, like start and stop it. So we finally provided a kind of handy tool for the biologists so that they can use this tool for further cloning processes. So the significance of my research is unlimited, because if I can solve the puzzle of inefficiency during cloning by wirelessly controlling the cell, at present, people in Texas are also cloning woolly the mammoth. It's a company called Velocity. As I say, applications are limited. We can even clone any species, not just limited to sheep or woolly the mammoth. This can be applied with even in vitro fertilizations and a lot of other applied science applications. So yeah, by that I'd like to end the talk, and thank you so much for coming here today.
All right, our next speaker is Carolina Cawthorn, and she comes to us from the Psychology Department and the Program in Neuroscience, and she will be speaking on the behavioral basis for Wegovy, semaglutide-induced weight loss.
So who's heard of Wegovy or Ozempic? They've been all over the news, and these are actually the same drug, just given in different doses to treat obesity or type 2 diabetes. The generic name is semaglutide, and the drug is based on a hormone that occurs naturally in the body, but the drug design makes it last a lot longer in circulation. So people can lose about 15% of their body weight. There are some gastrointestinal side effects with semaglutide, so people start with a really small dose, and they increase it over a long period of time to the maximum dose to reduce those issues. But surprisingly, we don't fully understand how semaglutide works. So I wanted to know, how does semaglutide change eating behavior to produce weight loss? To answer that question, you could ask people on semaglutide about their eating, but then you'd be relying on memory and self-report. And even if people had perfect memories, would they really tell you everything that they ate? And then if you found results, how would you know if they were the physiological effects of the drug or psychological effects from the desire to lose weight or look a certain way, or were influenced by a lifetime of reading good and bad nutritional advice? The fact is, setting up an experiment to study food intake in humans that doesn't rely on memory or self-report is extremely expensive, and finding subjects who aren't responding to these psychological factors is probably impossible. And that's where preclinical models, such as rats, come in. Unlike people, rats don't care how much they weigh or what they look like. They don't read dieting advice, and it's relatively easy to monitor what and how they eat. So they're excellent subjects for studying eating behavior in the absence of these psychological factors. And since I was interested in the physiologically driven changes in behavior that make semaglutide effective, and there's very little research using preclinical models that copies the dosing used in humans, I got some rats. And I used specialized cages that let me monitor when, how much, for how long, and at what rate the rats eat. I let them get used to the cages, and then I started treating them with either semaglutide or a control injection. And just like humans, I started them with a really small dose and increased the dose over a long period of time to my maximum dose, which I continued for a long time and kept them in these fancy cages throughout the experiment. And so we're going to start looking at some big picture results. The graphs I show will all be fold changed from baseline. The semaglutide rats will be in purple, the controls in green. The timeline is on the x-axis. A vertical line shows you when they advance from the dose escalation to the dose maintenance. And if you're interested in stats, I do have indicators indicators of those outcomes as well. And so we're going to look at food intake, and as you might expect, the rats that got semaglutide ate less, and over the course of the experiment, they ended up being about 15% lighter than the control rats, which is in line with human results. But total intake is the result of behavior, and I wanted to know how it happened. So for that, I had to turn to my meal patterns. And like humans, rats eat in discrete bouts that we call meals, and for a rat or a human to eat less, they would need to eat either fewer or smaller meals. And since meal frequency and meal size are controlled by different pathways in the brain, accurately studying eating behavior produces a neuroscience roadmap. So when we look at meals per day, we can see that the semaglutide rats didn't reduce their intake by eating fewer meals. Instead, they ate smaller meals, and they spent less time eating. And these both indicate that semaglutide increases satiation. My rats also ate at a slower rate, which suggests they diminished motivation to eat. But over time, meal size and the amount of time spent eating increased while the eating rate remained low. And that brings me to the final conclusion that increased satiation may help produce early weight loss with semaglutide, but it's that reduced motivation to eat that maintains weight loss when semaglutide is continued for a long time. I hope you've come to appreciate the value of preclinical models and rigorous behavioral testing for studying obesity treatments, and maybe you know just a little bit more about this drug that's been all over the news. Thank you.
Okay, our fourth speaker is Sam Cho. And Sam comes to us from the Civil and Environmental Engineering Group, and he is going to speak to us this afternoon on Into the Hurricane, Unraveling Hurricane Ian's Terrifying Effects on Florida.
Thank you for the kind introduction. And my name is Sam Cho, and I'm so excited to talk about my research about hurricane impact on Florida. But first, I want to start with an easy quiz show to have fun together. So please be ready to answer the following question. The question is, can we say that Hurricane Ian was catastrophic to Florida? So please show your thumbs up if you think so, and thumbs down if you don't. Wow, thank you for the warm engagement. And the answer is definitely yes. So all of us are winners today. So then how about this question? Was it also catastrophic to Tallahassee? Oh yeah. Actually, I prepared all the water, food, electricity last year, but I couldn't even see the single drop of the rainfall. So with that, we can definitely say that impact of hurricane is largely dependent on location. And my research is all about evaluating all climate data to figure out the locations with significant hurricane damage. And as a target data, I selected Hurricane Ian events. And I collected all available data with more than 30 years of record, and I was able to use rainfall, flow discharge, wind speed, and storm surge data. And this is about the method. I applied bivariate analysis, which considers two variables at once to quantify the risk of the hurricane. So this is the first variable, and this is second variable. And third one is the joint probability, which can be very easily can be calculated with those Coppola equations. And all the results of this study are expressed with written period. Then what is the written period? Do you guys know the written period? Actually, with all of us, it's really easy to see written period in the news article. So here, 1,000 years are written period, and 1,000 year flood means that extreme and rare cases which only happens once in 1,000 years. Now it's time to see my final result about Hurricane Ian. So this is the map showing the return period of each station, and we can clearly see the path of the hurricane damage. And also, we can see the cities with significant damage, such as Orlando, and Fort Myers, and Key West. And this is called hydrologic unit codes map, and which is generally used in water resources field. And with this map, we can see the broader region as an area. So with the high impact of hurricane, so you can find your house and other things in those two maps. And additionally, I could calculate the highest return period of Hurricane Ian as more than 2,000 years. So with this number, we can say that Hurricane Ian was really, really extreme and catastrophic. So my research was all about preparing the detailed answer of the first question. And I believe that those maps and numbers are sufficient to answer the question scientifically. And in addition, all this information are truly important for federal agency and water management district to optimize the disaster response action. And also, insurance company can use this information for risk assessment and also to cover the hurricane-related damage. And this is all I prepared today, and thank you, especially thank you for the engagement. Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, our next speaker, our fifth speaker, is Olivia Cook, and she comes to us from the developmental psychology field, and she is going to speak today on Do You Remember? The Effects of Teachers' Memory, Relevant Language on Children's Development of Strategic Memory.
One of my most vivid memories from kindergarten was when my teacher wrote the number 2000 on the chalkboard and explained to us how we would be entering the new millennium and how exciting it would be to be a part of that moment in history. So I wanted to take a minute to think if you have any particularly standout memories from kindergarten. Do they involve using one of these? How about this? How about this? Do you recognize this? I definitely don't recognize this. So these are things that I observed in my doctoral training when I was observing kindergarten classrooms. And teachers are using these around the country right now to help children develop strategies for remembering information. And in case you're curious, this is a tens frame, a number bond, a rec and rec, and a graphic organizer. Context is everything. And since kindergarten seems to have changed drastically within the past 20 years, it's important to continue to understand contextual factors on children's cognitive development, specifically teachers' references to children's thinking and strategy use. So what's expected of kindergartners today? It's a lot. When you enter kindergarten, it's expected that you have developed the ability to sit still, pay attention to the teacher, maybe you're entering with some basic numeracy and literacy skills. But when you leave, you will have developed the ability to process and store information with the intention to recall it later, as well as make sense of problems and persevere in solving them. And these last two skills are ones that I chose to highlight in my research. They're sometimes referred to as children's strategic memory skills, and they're thought to serve children's long-term academic success. And so in my research, I tracked 76 kindergartners across 2 academic years, totaling 8 time points. We tracked them in terms of their use of strategies when working to remember novel information. These children were nested across 10 different classrooms across 3 schools, and we worked with kindergarten teachers to observe their use of instructional language during mathematics and language arts classes, specifically, we observed them using GoPro videos, and we gathered a total of 2 hours of footage per teacher. We were interested in their use of cognitive processing language. So what is cognitive processing language? And before you look at this, I'm going to talk you through this graph. So each bar represents one teacher. We assess teachers every 30 seconds for their use across these 5 different component codes. And so somebody that might be high in their use of cognitive processing language, or their references to children's thinking, cognitive structuring activities, or strategy suggestions, might say, if that doesn't make sense, go back and reread or look at the picture. What are some strategies you could use to help you figure that out? And how many seashells are there in all? How did you solve that problem, and how did you know to add? Teachers were then split into high or low groups based off of their use of cognitive processing language. And our results evidence that children who were exposed to higher levels of cognitive processing language in kindergarten developed more rapidly over the course of kindergarten and first grade years than their peers in lower cognitive processing language classrooms. They also ended first grade with higher scores than their peers in those lower classrooms. But what happens if I enter kindergarten with lower initial skills? I can't really focus as well as my peers. They are sometimes referred to as children's self-regulation skills. We were interested to see if the role of cognitive processing language had a differential impact on children with lower self-regulation skills, and that's exactly what we found. Children with lower skills, the exposure to high levels of CPL, or cognitive processing language, was very important for their success. And so despite these findings, very little is known about children's everyday lived experiences, so additional research in this area is necessary. Additionally, this research is important because it capitalizes on existing strengths of teachers. Not one additional thing that we have to remember to do. These findings can be provided to instructional coaches to help teachers further refine what they're already doing. You might remember that every teacher in our study exhibits some degree of cognitive processing language. And then finally, we still don't know what causes variability in teachers' cognitive processing language. And so one thing I'm looking forward to examining here at Florida State University is the role of teachers' mathematics anxiety and how that might impact their instructional practices. Thank you so much.
All right, our sixth speaker is Zenda He, and he comes to us from chemistry, biochemistry, and he's going to speak today on learning love from science.
All right, thank you so much. So, you only need 2 things to get unlimited energy. One is the sun, the other one, water. Let me tell you why. So, the energy from the sun could dissolve water into hydrogen and oxygen gas. Then they will recombine into water. In the meantime, release electric energy. And in order to increase the efficiency of this process, we need material that could accelerate the underlying reactions. So the purpose of my research is to find material that is highly active, stable, and also cheap. So the problem with the current material is that they all contain really expensive elements like iridium and platinum. In order to reduce costs, we can either replace them with really cheap elements, or we could decrease the amount that we are using. So, in my research, I studied this graphene-based single-atom catalyst because first, carbon is one of the most abundant elements on Earth. And second is that we only need 1 metal atom per molecule in this material. So, let's embark on a journey of finding a promising material and also learn something about love. So, show me your hands. Who's listening? This. Wow, that's good. That's a scoring guess. So, this is Lady Anna. She is smart, kind, a wonderful girl. And this is Lady Elsa. She's active, powerful, a little bit bossy. They both want to find unconditional love, which means that the love will never change no matter what happens. Since they cannot find it in the library, they decide to go out and find for themselves. Because they all have some scientific mind, they developed a quantity called the love index, which can measure the power of love. And the unconditional love means that the love index remains constant no matter what changes. So over the years, they have met lots of gentlemen. And for Lady Anna, she found that most of the gentlemen are highly influenced by their family and peers. But for some, she she felt a sense of unconditional love. But for Lady Elsa, she found that no gentleman could give her the unconditional love that she needs. And in order to figure out what really makes unconditional love, they went to a guy called a love expert and showed them their detailed notes. And Lady Anna asked, why are men so different? And the Lady Elsa, why can I find unconditional love? The love expert looked at the data and formulated a theory. He told Lady Anna, look, this is the structure of the gentleman's heart. You can see that most of the spaces are filled with ideas influenced by their family and peers. But if you look at this blue region, if you can find some space in here, then you'll find unconditional love. Then he turned to Lady Elsa. So, Lady Elsa, because of the power you have, when a gentleman is with you, the structure of the heart will change. All their thoughts will entangle together. That's why there will be no space in their heart that is in their total control, which means that you cannot find unconditional love. So on that day, Lady Anna has learned that the unconditional love comes only from a place which we have total control. And the Lady Elsa learned something, that sometimes you need to stay back and don't push too hard. Otherwise, you will completely change the gentleman's mind, and then you will not find unconditional love. So, based on the results that have gathered from Lady Elsa and Anna for many, many years, we could do two things. First thing, we could come up with a really good material that only uses the cheap elements, which can be used to replace the expensive one. And also, by the theory proposed by the love experts, we know that in order to find unconditional love, we need to find a space of our own which that we control. That is how we find unconditional love. Alright, so we know that science can find some amazing material for us and also give us something about love. Now, we want us to stay together. Science rocks! Thank you very much.
Okay, our seventh speaker is Sarah Manamalim, and she comes to us from the Civil and Environmental Engineering Group, and she is going to be speaking on bridging the gap in the green stormwater infrastructure planning and equity index for socioeconomic and environmental metrics across the United States.
Hello everyone. I am going to talk to you about Green Infrastructure Equity Index. But first, let me introduce you to a concept that is called environmental justice. And based on that, everyone, regardless of race, background, socioeconomic status, have the same rights to environmental protections. However, historically in the US, minorities and low-income communities have been impacted more by environmental issues such as flooding. Flood risk can be mitigated by green stormwater infrastructures. And these are engineered nature-based features that can reduce the stormwater runoff by mimicking natural water cycle. And you can see here an example of it, which is called bioretention. And as you can see, since these are plant-based, they also provide some co-benefit for communities, such as improving health and providing habitat for the wildlife. So in this study, we wanted to see whether implementation of these green infrastructures are equitable in the US, meaning did minorities and low-income communities receive the same amount of green infrastructure as others? And based on our analysis, the answer is no. Out of 29 states with green infrastructure, we have seen significant disparities in 2012. Florida is actually one of those states where minorities specifically did not receive green infrastructures. This is a very important finding. It's an issue of environmental injustice. But we didn't want to stop here. We wanted to see what we can do to improve this situation. And the answer was an equity index. So we obtained data on social vulnerability metrics for more than 8 million blood groups across the US from Census Bureau, and we incorporated that into environmental vulnerability metrics. And that gave us the equity index, which ranked blood group across the US from the most vulnerable to the least vulnerable ones. And here you can see the most vulnerable ones as these red areas. And these are the areas that needs green infrastructure the most because they have environmental issues that can be solved by green infrastructure, but more importantly, these are socially vulnerable areas. We want everybody to have access to our equity index, and that's why a few days ago we transferred the equity index into an online web tool. And it is my honor to announce that today, here, it is the official launch of our tool, and you guys are going to be the first user of it. You are going to start the change. So please, scan this code with your phone, click on the link, it's going to take you to the tool. Once you are in the tool, zoom in to the area that you are interested in. Whether it's your home, your parents' home, your neighborhood, your school, doesn't matter. And once you've done that, remember the color that you see. I'm going to give you guys some time to do so. All right. Now, if you like so, would you please raise your hand if the area that you have been interested in was either orange or red? Wow. Take a look around yourself and you can see why these research are much needed and why these research are significant. So in this study, we first identified the issue of environmental injustice, but then we offered a solution that can help building more resilient communities. And what you all started here today can change the world for the better for the next generation and the generations that follow. Thank you very much. Go Knowles.
Okay, our eighth speaker is Chris Omni, and she comes to us from a variety of fields, very multidisciplinary, geography, public health, and art education. And she's going to speak this afternoon on Black joy in green spaces, a nature-inspired and darkened visual narrative inquiry.
Greetings. My name is Dr. Chris Omni, and I am a Black Joy scholar, artist, and activist. And for the purpose of today's conversation, I invite you to participate. So you may raise your hand, shout out your answer, but whatever it is you do, don't take too much time because I only have 5 minutes, all right? So let's begin with a question. How many of you like to do puzzles? Great. And what is the first step that you normally do when you start your puzzle? Thank you. You find the 4 corners. So the 4 corners to frame today's conversation include who, what, where, and why. Now you might want to pay attention because there just might be a pop quiz at the end. Who? Black people. What? Black joy. Where? Green spaces, also referred to as nature. And why? To explore nature's influence on the emotional, social, physical, and spiritual well-being of Black people, but secondly, and more importantly, to provide a counter-narrative to the typical deficit lens that is generally applied to research regarding the Black experience. So now that you have 4 corners, what is your next step? Wonderful, thank you so much. So the 4 edges, we're not going to have a pop quiz, but sit back and enjoy because those edges include theory, methodology and method, research design, and findings. While working on my dissertation, I developed the Kujima theory of collective self-motivation. And within this theory, it is deeply rooted in womanism and is enhanced by 3 quantum principles. Those principles are Kuji Chagalia, which means self-determination, Kumba, which is creativity, and Ujima, collective work, and responsibility. Now, that's just the theory. When it comes to the methodology, my main methodology is in darkened visual narrative inquiry. Sounds like a mouthful, and I promise to explain, but I pause here to acknowledge Drs. McClish Boyd and Dr. B, for they are the ones who developed in darkened narrative inquiry in 2020. So let me step over here and explain. Narrative inquiry is a research tool using stories. Visual narrative inquiry is about using images. And endarkened is a term that was coined by Dr. Cynthia Dillard as a way to provide cultural connection and reclamation from the word enlighten. Therefore, I researched Black experiences through a positive Black lens to provide illumination to the masses. And the way that I shine light on the subject of Black joy in green spaces is with these methods. I use walking, photography, videos, and photo elicitation interview. So by combining these 4 arts-based research practices, along with my 25-year background in public health, I'm able to do so much more than just simply contribute to a body of knowledge. I improve the bodies, minds, and spirits of Black people everywhere. So let's talk about the research design. This design was an intergenerational study that invited 4 Black women ranging in ages between 24 and 58, and I was included in that study, and one of the other participants are also here in the room today. Within this conversation, they had a chance to talk to me about their lived experiences and being in green spaces. Following our one-on-one conversation, we walked around Piney Z, which is a local green space, and I invited them to take as many photos of things that brought them joy. Now, one participant took as few as 24, the other as many as 98, and then the challenge was to narrow that down to only 5 photos. And during those 5 photos, we could dive deeper into the meaning behind the pictures, photo elicitation interview, as well as their experiences. So, now the research questions. For the sake of time, I am not able to go through all of these, but I do want to focus on number 2 because that really elevates and amplifies the importance of my work. So how does Black joy show up for Black women who commune regularly with nature? The 4 answers are present here. Radical authenticity, a collective self-ideology, expanded compassion, and number 4 is the most important piece that I need you to understand because my research is a restorative practice. It's not just restorative for the participant, but also for the researcher and those who receive it. Therefore, it's a triple win when it comes to studying Black joy in green spaces. Now, I'm gonna give you a brief intermission break. Enjoy the music, even though you can't hear it. And it's on pause, but enjoy the participants. And then let's prepare our minds for these questions. Here's a pop quiz. If I were to ask who, you would say? If I were to ask what, you would say? If I were to ask where, you would say? I'll give you the why. To provide a counter-narrative to the typical deficit lens that is generally applied to research regarding Black experiences. Thank you.
Okay, our 9th speaker is Thais Petri, and she comes to us from chemistry and biochemistry, and her lecture is called The Order, Structure of Proteins, Combating Villains. Very appropriate for Halloween.
Hello everyone. I came here to tell a story about the order structure of proteins combating villains, volume 1. So, once upon a time, in a very faraway place, there were molecules called proteins, very essential to all living organisms in the kingdom. So the proteins are consistent of a long chain of amino acids that are connected by peptide bonds. So the order in which the different amino acids are inserted determines the structure and function. So the chain starts folding until it reaches a final 3D structure that will exhibit its function. So we know that the structure and function of proteins are encoded in the DNA. So one gene, we have one amino acid sequence, one protein structure, and function. But it's not simple like that, because mutations can occur in the gene. So we have changes in the amino acid sequence, and so we have different variants for a single protein. So for one gene, we have many protein variants, different protein structures, and different functions. So there are proteins with different structures and functions living in that kingdom, and everything was so harmonious in the living organisms in this kingdom until a threat showed up, the SARS-CoV-2. Yeah. So this virus caused the COVID-19 pandemic. And on the surface of this virus, there are the spike protein. So the spike protein has a region binding domain that will attach to the protein AC2 that is on the surface of our cells, so causing the infection. So mutations in the spike protein could change how well SARS-CoV-2 sticks to and does infect our cells. And some researchers that live in the kingdom systematically started to study the structure of different mutations, and while others studied what kind of antibodies that can combat them. So mutations in the gene leads to different proteins, different structure, and as I said, different function. So the approach that these researchers in the kingdom used, like I use from a term, yeah, because I'm not just like a storyteller, I'm also a researcher. So is able to characterize the structure of the proteins according to their shape, by their mobility, and also by the mass. That's why it's our mobility mass spectrometer. So offering the potential to correlate the structure of proteins, if it is compact and extended, to some kind of variation in the amino acid sequence. So it's important to study the structure of the SARS-CoV-2 as well as other viruses, allowing the understanding of the binding of the virus to our cells and also contributing to the immune response. So once we figured out how they bind to our cells according to the structure, we can develop antivirus, for example. So the proteins were rid of the infection, thus the living organs of the kingdom were healed and lived happily ever after. Was this the end? Until another pandemic.
Okay, our 10th speaker is Jacob Ruby, and his lecture this afternoon is The World is Spinning.
So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let's start with impact of the work I do, the field of quantum mechanics. So here you can see explosion of the nuclear bomb, the story and the history and background of this invention was depicted in this nice movie, Oppenheimer. Here also audio. So luckily people have managed to not only use the nuclear fission for bombs, but also to produce energy. So here you can see a nuclear power plant. USA has nearly 10% of the electric energy from the nuclear power plants. So quantum mechanics has also hugely contributed to the devices, smartphones in your hands or pockets, to the global positioning system in maps, and also lasers, which you can find in the barcodes or during the surgeries, and also the magnetic resonance imaging. For us, we're interested in quantum computing. FSU has recently launched the Quantum Initiative. So if you didn't know, now you know. And so let's get started. I could probably end, but I decided to prepare a short poem, physics poem. So hopefully like it. Horror spinning is my title. Next 2 minutes will be vital. 5 minutes are more than enough. You just need to be enough. For those who have Barbenheimer seen, a truly remarkable combination unforeseen. In the picture here, the Earth rotates, but there's another quantum world that awaits. Today, I'll tell you a story about spin, a quantum property that has always been. Let me show you the nanoscale world I study. Electron spin resonance is my body. Information about the magnetic properties you obtain, as well as spin dynamics inside you gain. Electrons along with nuclei atoms make, many branched atoms molecule make. Paramagnetic system with unpaired electrons, in no magnetic field, the electrons randomly fits. To study the molecule of nuclei electrons in field, we place them into the magnetic field that they feel. Cool them down to cryogenic temperature and apply a microwave, that is the resonant condition they crave. You just learned the magnetic resonance base. Let us look a bit deeper into a special case. Colleagues from chemistry like to play, alter the surrounding ligands as a foreplay. When the right ligand clicks, happiness is seen on our lips. If you take electrons from an atom in pair, a positively charged ion forms in this pair. Scheme shows prosody to ion. The chemical bonds are stronger than iron. Black powder from synthesis comes. All the preparation effort sums. The result is coordination compound, coming for measurement, safe and sound. The spin of an electron gives you 2 energy levels. The difference gives you transition with rebels. Energy of molecule is what we look for here. Kinetic and potential terms will adhere. There's some displacement, but it's fine. The energy between the levels is contact, equals to Planck constant times frequencies timelines. That is the Bohr constant times magnetic field, with electron G factor as magnetic property yield. Nature always likes the state of the lowest energy. This way, it will let you reveal its inner synergy. That transition gives you spectrum to simulate, quantum world nature you emulate. The electron with spin 1/2 signal gives, nearby nuclear spin never forgives. The electron-nuclear interaction is seen by these wiggles on the screen. By the electron spin resonance, we see the quantum world's deepest sea. The world we don't understand much, that is why we study it as such. From all these terms that might spin, you all are the quantum world we live in. In this way, few minutes, you learn what I do. Take care, I hope you enjoyed it too.
All right, so we've got a storybook teller, we got a poet, and now I can get an actor, so let's see. So our last and final is our 11th talk, and this is from Aaron Youngkin, and his field is biomedical engineering and artificial intelligence, or AI, and beyond the operating room.
Hi, thank you for the energy after all those 10 amazing presentations. I'm the last, I promise, so we'll get to you afterwards. Alright. We lose 400,000 people every year during surgery because of simply preventable medical mistakes. Research suggests that this happens due to inadequate surgical training the residents receive. In this training, an expert surgeon issues your feedback at his or her own time. There are certain limitations to this. For example, surgeons are very busy people. By the time you get your feedback, you already forgotten what was a mistake in the first place. Second, surgeons are people like us, so they carry bias, and unfortunately, given you have limited access, you inherit that bias too. But what if I told you I could bring not one, not two, but thousands of surgeons right to your doorstep and all cleanse with bias. That is exactly what artificial intelligence or AIs do today. Trained from the feedback of lots of surgeons from different backgrounds, diverse backgrounds, AIs today can provide you assessment with really good accuracies up to 98, sometimes even 99.999%. Doesn't mean I should just go now back to lab, start implementing this technology. Unfortunately, the answer is no. There are certain things that surgeons still do way better that AIs either can or that are not tested for. I'm going to give you two demonstrations, and in these demonstrations, please assume you're either the patient and or the surgical resident, and I will be the expert surgeon. Here's one. And here's the assessment. You failed. Well, you all ask, why did I fail? Where is my feedback? Feedback is the only way to get better at what you're doing. And this is exactly how AIs are today. They just tell you that you failed or you passed, that's it. And here comes the second example. And here's the assessment. Yeah, that was pretty realistic, and it looks like you don't hold the tools, so I assume you passed. You did. So here's a question: do you trust this assessment? You probably don't. You want to hear something more like, okay, I see I'm going to like checklist. I look at the timer. I see how you treated the patient. You're good. And same as this, you want to be able to trust an AI, but none of the AIs out there are tested for their confidence or reliability so far. So to counter these two, I developed an AI that does exactly those. First, not only tells you that you passed or failed, it tells you why. It tells you, hey, remember that you literally stabbed the guy in 20 seconds? That's why you failed. And the second one, we developed a singular metric spanning from 0 to 100% that tells how confident AI is in its predictions. And we just wanted to see that our AIs are good. 90 to 99% confidence, awesome. But we also found out that many of the AIs out there who claim to be the state-of-the-art, high-performing models and should be deployed today provide around 20%, maybe 25% trustworthiness. That's basically like the second example where the surgeon just had a lucky guess by poking the dummy. You probably don't want that to train next generation of surgeons. In summary, I developed an AI. Not only can give you real-time assessment and is also objective, cleansed of bias like other surgeons, like other AIs, it can also give you a nice feedback and you can trust it. I believe an AI like this has a strong potential to train next generation of surgeons to be better, to be more competent, so that hopefully those 400,000 people can go beyond the operating room and hug their loved ones. Maybe one more time. Thank you.
So in third place, bridging the gap and green stormwater infrastructure. All right. Now we've got two winners for second place, the same how we had during the practice. You guys were like one apart, okay? So Dee Riley said we're gonna have two second places. And so the first is Crystal Omni Black Joy. Name on one of them, and I said, I see Chris all the
Debbie, you should be in the photo.
I got separate. All right.
Chris is, if I can see this on my screen here, is, do you remember the effects of teachers? Da, 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 da. All right, now, first place is the behavioral basis for induced weight loss.